intro before. I'd like to call the Proctor City Council meeting for Monday, May 6, 2024 to order. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perform roll call at this time. Councilor Benson.
Present.
Councilor Reuter.
Present.
Councilor Johnson.
Present.
Councilor DeWall.
Present.
Mayor Ward is also present. Please let the minutes reflect all others in attendance. Administrator Rich, Chief Gatus, and Megan, do you want to say her last name one more time? Mizuko. Thank you. Looking for a motion to approve the City Council meeting minutes from Monday, April 15th, 2024.
So moved.
Councilor Johnson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Reuter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Before making that motion, I'd like to add 4C, Fire Department vehicle purchase, which is on your desk in front of you.
I'll make a motion to approve the
Councilor,
agenda.
Councilor Reuter made the motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second? I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Brings us to comments and suggestions from the citizens present or watching from home. The public comment suggestion period of the meeting is when the City Council offers a time for everyone in attendance or watching from home to address the City Council. Once we move on from the public comment suggestion period of the meeting, members of the public will no longer be allowed to address the council unless the mayor acknowledges you. As a general rule, the council will listen to all comments but will not comment on or respond to any comments made by speakers. The council will not engage in dialogue. However, any council member can ask questions. If you'd like to address City Council during public comment suggestion period of the meeting, please come forward to the podium or dial 218-628-6289. Before you begin, please state your name and address for the meeting minutes. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the City Council will be prohibited from using obscene, profane, or threatening language or boisterous conduct that disrupts the meeting or the security of the public. Is there anyone at this time interested in participating in the public comment suggestion period of the meeting? Please come forward or dial 218-628-6289. We'll give that about a minute. Hearing none, we'll move on. Looking for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. I'll make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, pulling 4C. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Benson. Any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to pull 5C.
5C. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Oppose? Motion passes. That will bring us to 4C, Fire Department vehicle purchase. Administrator Rich.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council, I apologize for this coming to you so late, but it was literally events that transpired over the weekend. You approved the purchase of this fire truck back in January of 2024, and at that time, it's always a race for the first community to get that particular fire truck, and we didn't win. We lost out on the purchase at the time, which was awarded to another community. Since then, this truck has become available. They're making rather than making one truck at a time, they can make 2 of these at one time for some efficiencies. The price has not changed. Price will remain the same. Payment terms have remain the same. The Queen has reserved this truck for us under a line of credit from them, their line of credit. You are in no obligation to accept it, but I just wanted to confirm that you were still okay with moving forward with this purchase before I went into purchase agreements on it. Since it has, there's been a lot of budget questions coming up lately, and I just thought that maybe you should have.
Thank you. What's council's pleasure on the request in front of us? Back on sometime in January, we did approve this truck. Is that council's stance still today, or is there questions regarding that?
I'm good with it.
Good. I mean, we did approve it back in January. I'm okay with still approving it again today. I know there is some budgetary questions or concerns that are fastly approaching us, so if council still wants to move forward, we'll entertain a motion to purchase fire truck.
I will move.
Councilor Benson made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilor Reuter makes a second. Is any discussion?
I'm really concerned, Mr. Mayor, with the other things coming up, and I haven't seen the numbers for a while, but when I did look at them, that we're gonna have some very, very, very tough decisions in the very, very near future, because we just simply can't do everything. And I feel bad. I would like to be able to buy everything for everyone, but I also don't wanna keep taxing the citizens. And I think if we put the proposal with this and the other two items that were scheduled, we're locked for, till the next bond is paid off, and that's 3 or 4 years from now. And I'm really concerned, and this is off topic, but we haven't even received a $230,000 or $40,000 plow truck, and it's been 2.5, 3 years, which I'll bring up under members' concerns. Cause that's going on 3 years. I know that we're stuck in a predicament of having to spend money for future councils. I don't like that. And I know the fire department needs it, just as the street department needs a new grader and a loader, but I'm concerned because we don't have a balanced plan on how we're gonna afford all of this stuff. And I know things go up every year. So part of me is a little bit reluctant in approving this because it gives us a second chance to do a little better job of ascertaining city-wide needs and how we distribute the funding for those needs, because we can't do all the needs. And I'm sure there'll be a ton of people upset, but I'm gonna just speak the truth. That's how I feel. And I see in here we have till basically June 1st, or we have till tonight. And when we approved it, didn't we approve it for like 500,000? See, it's 18,000 higher.
Those emails are from January.
There was an increase in February.
Okay. I know engine 1 is on its last leg. I also know we bought a $750,000 ladder truck. That is a dual purpose truck that replaced engine 1. You know, engine 2, if we buy this new truck, engine 2 is gonna still stick around. Engine 1, you know, this isn't replacing engine 1. We've already replaced engine 1 with the ladder truck. It's a dual purpose truck. So, I've said my piece.
No, and the numbers you're referring to, Counselor, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the numbers Finance Director Brunfeld put out 2 months ago maybe now.
And this is a little bit too late, but I did sit down with Leslie last week and requested a financial meeting to talk about that. She kind of has it scheduled for the first part of June, which doesn't help us out in this situation. I would like to ask Administrator Rich what she thinks.
Is there a time frame on this decision?
I was just gonna contact Chief Elkins to see
If we could wait 2 weeks to make a decision on it? So council can do a little bit of research on their questions they have regarding future budgets and future needs?
And maybe that meeting, finance meeting, could be moved up to the, what, 19th or, no, what is it, 20th?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that helps us.
Well, it would give me, and I'm sure the rest of you, an idea of what the future looks like, right? Because we were hit with those numbers after we made this decision back in January and had some concerns for a lot of us, so.
I thought we had a little more room, Mayor, with our borrowing potential. I didn't realize we had already, I suppose with the 2 most recent road projects that put us over. But what I'm more concerned about is, you know, how to prioritize the need. And, you know, I'm still worried about the plow truck not showing up that we haven't paid for. You know, and yeah, we keep a little reserve in our general reserve, but I can see that thing getting clobbered all of a sudden, and then we have nothing, and then we go back to a poor bond rating, or what if something significant happens and we do have to do something on behalf of the city that needs to get done? How are we going to do it without just leveraging the tax basis? So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I mean, I gotta be realistic. Can't spend more than what you're taking in.
Nothing?
I mean,
Chief
We
Elkins
have 2
reports
weeks.
that the contract will be on my desk in the morning. Said I would have to guess it won't last long if we postpone any decision.
Any other discussion?
So we can't put it off?
We can, but that truck might disappear again.
we lost the first truck already. They have a line of people willing to buy that truck, I'm sure. It's just a matter of if they're willing. I mean, it's kind of a no-lose situation for them, if I may speak candidly, because they are gonna sell the truck, whether it's to us or the next person in line. All I'm asking for is a little bit of breathing room to do some due diligence and really get into some numbers of, so we don't set up future councils, you know, we have an election coming up. There could be 3 new people in here and they could have their hands tied for, I think the last time I looked at it, it was through 27 or the end of 26.
And I'd have to go back and relook at those. What she presented to us was buying all the wants, right? That's on our future planning, but.
I mean, my intent was to roll 3 major pieces together and try to merge those, you know, and that's what we've done in the past, because that's one of the only ways we can afford to do it. But we also got street projects we're still paying for, we had other obligations. And I'm just worried that we're gonna make too many promises that eventually won't, you know, we'll just have to keep digging into our reserves, and that's not a good situation either. Even if we dug into our reserves to reduce the cap space, to make it a flush capital to debt ratio, still doesn't mean we can borrow money until we pay something off.
But I believe Leslie bundled all, what was there, 3 pieces of equipment there?
Well, there was everything. There was a squad car, I think the dump truck that we haven't received yet,
Grader, or,
a grader, a loader,
Yeah.
and a fire truck is like in excess of 1.4 mil.
yep.
And I believe that also included the sign truck that we approved too, that was 120,000. And we've been spending money like it's going out of style.
Any other discussion?
Recommendation,
You have a long list of needs, so council, staff is bringing them to you, getting them, you're aware of, you know, what's gonna need to be purchased and replaced. I think it's a matter of council prioritizing that.
for discussion purposes, if we were to approve this and put the grader and front end loader off another year or two, is that possible?
What I need to look at is our debt and when the next piece comes up, because I think we might be in a position to where we might have to roll an old bond. Jim's obviously been around for that, Jess has probably done it. But you take your oldest note, usually you try to get a cheaper interest rate, I don't think we're gonna get that, but you kind of clean up the books, if you will. And then to know which ones are coming off. I know there's a 2016 that's still on the books that should be coming off soon. We have a 2018, 2020, and just recently, well, we haven't even done Second Street yet, which would be 2024. So there's a lot of, we were pretty aggressive on our roads and streets and infrastructure that way, and we were aggressive in getting that ladder truck. And the reason we got that ladder truck was it was a dual purpose. And I guess my intent is if we can buy some time, you know, to really put together a master plan, like, are we still on the list to get the snowplow truck, or do we just get blown off? Because it's been 2.5 years. Netscape, government account, doesn't take 3 years to get it. If it does, somebody screwed up, somebody dropped the ball. That's why we don't have the truck. So on members' concerns, I was gonna ask for, I want numbers, names, who we ordered it through, where's it at? Because they're playing games out there with whoever kind of gripes the loudest gets their product first. And if we're just standing around waiting for them, it's a chassis. It's not that complicated of a chassis. I could understand if we were behind, but I haven't even gotten word that we've received the truck and it's sitting at the place to get the sander and the dump truck and the plow. And to my knowledge, we haven't even received the chassis. Is that correct or incorrect?
So since the last council meeting on April 16th, working foreman Rick Lalonde sent us an email that the truck should be built by August, then it will have to go to Towmaster for dump, body, plows, controls. And he's hoping that we'll have the truck in our possession by the time snow flies this winter. There is a price adjustment on that as well, because now we're 2 years into another model. And then the sign utility truck is scheduled to arrive in June, and they'll bring it to Aspen Equipment to have it outfitted.
So there's 250, 350, close to 400,000 right there that we've already approved and ordered. And I knew that was gonna happen as we didn't get the year that we put it in, and so it's another reason to up the price. So the $230,000 plow truck is gonna cost $250, $260.
He said there was a price adjustment from the original, this doesn't include the build out, but the original price was $117 for the 2024 model, and the 2025 model is $131.
And then you gotta add it. I think package deal is what I'm referring to. I know it was over 230. we have a $50,000 or $60,000 Dodge sign truck and it's ended up to be 105, and that's a 45 to 50,000 build out. I can only assume that a sanding, bigger plow truck is gonna cost double that. So add another, at least $100,000 to that figure.
And that's my worry here. You know, we approved this back in January too, and if we don't go with it, how long is that truck gonna last the fire department that they have? I mean, they just,
General one?
yeah,
Well, that's the beauty part of it, and that's where there's a whole bunch of confusion. That already replaced the truck we're currently using. When it got to the point of where it was gonna be too expensive to fix,
I get that,
we still have the '04 International that
Right.
has to be replaced, but
Right.
this, you know,
but they're gonna need two trucks. So if we got two older trucks, we're gonna have to replace another one sooner rather than later. And what's this price gonna do if we hold off?
everything's just gonna keep going up.
Right, right, and that's my concern.
You know, you know, it's almost like, this is where you need the person that operates it. Kinda know where the engine 2 and engine 1 stand.
Right.
I know one year we got tagged for 40, 50,000 on the loader, and that $130,000 loader now is over 230,000. That was a 2010, so you're 14, 15 years, and I know, street foreman did say that we're right on task from when we replaced the grader and the loader. But a part of me is like, we gotta figure out how to separate some of this up a little bit, so we're, you know, we're staggering them, because then if we buy a loader and a grader, we're stuck in the same cycle again.
Right. And maybe council needs to schedule a working session with Leslie to get our long-term plan down. Because the plan she presented with everything all at once is just, not only is it gonna be unaffordable, but it's gonna set future councils up to be in the same dilemma we're in 10 years down the road, or 5 years down the road, whatever timeline may be. So we should have a plan out there, kinda like what we do with the PD and their squads, to figure out a schedule on how we update this equipment. We can't sit and just not update things. I mean, that's kinda why we're sitting where we are right now. So we do need to make progress, but I get what you're saying, Counselor DeWall, that we can't put us in a bad financial situation either, but we do need to update this, because soon everything's gonna be needing replacement, and we won't be able to do that.
You know, I'm almost wondering if it wouldn't help to have, and I'm sure the street foreman's already done this, but if you had to pick between the grader and the loader, and only one could be replaced, which one do you replace? Which gets used more? The loader? Probably?
Yeah. Do we put the new fire truck on hold till next year and get our name in right away, even though the price we know is gonna go up?
Well, I'm trying to go with like half of the 1.4. I'm trying to be realistic and leave some breathing room. So if we look at 750,000, say that's our pot that we can bond for instead of 1.4, in excess of 1.4. That means we're gonna have to float a little bit from the reserve and clean some things up. If it goes over 750, we might have to pay out of pocket a little bit. But, and then set up a game plan for something to the effect where we're putting, like we do, it's easier with smaller costing items than it is for large items, but, I mean, we're able to do it for the ladder truck, you know, and that was $800 and some thousand. I think we could do it, but we have to start putting some money away for that, so that we have some liquidity and payments on a lease, or a lease to own or buyout, bond buyout.
And with these delayed trucks, we budgeted for the last couple of years for that, correct?
Right, so at the end of the year, that money flushes out, it didn't get spent, goes back into our general reserve.
Oh,
But, so what we thought we had in there, we don't have in there. We spent money that's not taken off the general ledger. So say we have $1 million in our general reserve, which a lot of people might think that's a ton of money. It's not. And if you've got 250 into a plow truck and 100 and some thousand into a, well, actually that might be different because we did some sewer budgeting. That isn't something that got kicked back. But that 250, you don't have $1 million anymore. You got 750.
right. Okay.
So it's, you know, when we go through the audit reports and the end of the year reports, it's kind of, I don't want to say falsifying that number, but it's not the accurate number because we've spent those dollars, technically. It doesn't go into a savings account. It goes into the general
And it
fund.
doesn't stay for that budgeted item. It
It's
goes
not
back.
set up like the public safety fund, where it's designated as a fund for that purpose. So I'm almost, I mean, we have not made a decision on the grader or the loader. I'm just trying to get council's opinion on where I'm thinking is, I'm looking at it, not trying to go for the gusto at 1.4. I'm trying to capitalize something at around 750 to 800,000. What can we get for that kind of money? Well, we can get a fire truck and maybe we can get the loader. Because the loader, I think, was
250.
250, so there's your, we'd have to, I'm sure we could come up with $18,000 somewhere out of our, one of the budgets to cover those two things.
It's pretty small, but that's what I got.
If you removed the grader and the loader from that, report that Leslie provided, you would be at 945,000.
That would be the squad car and,
Plow truck, sign truck, fire truck.
so no squad car.
Oh, you said squad car.
Oh, plus,
Yeah.
So 4.
which I don't like the squad car being put in there because that's coming from a different fund.
And you're at 873.
So pretty close. And we were, was it a couple hundred over? That gives us $100,000 to $150,000. I don't remember that number. How much we were over at the 1.4. 1.470, so you might as well just call it 1.5.
1.5, yeah.
I guess that's just my opinion. I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news, but it's been on my mind for months.
Sinsick, no?
And I kind of feel like, hey, this has given me an opportunity to do something about it. Which, I just think that's, you know, so that would mean we'd get the new plow truck, sewer truck, fire engine, and a loader. Assuming that Rick would
No, the loader was taken off that.
know
Fire
the
trucks.
grader.
I thought you said taking the loader and grader out.
Fire, the number that, the last number I gave you was for fire truck, sign truck, plow truck. No loader, no grader, no squad car.
But the squad car I don't include in there anyway, because that's coming out of the PUC fund, which is budgeted for. And technically, the plow truck would come from the general reserve, because that's money that got kicked back into it that we had already budgeted when we approved it 2.5 years ago. That's why I wouldn't include the plow truck. So if you take the plow truck off
You're
of
gonna be
that,
at 6 something, won't you?
7 something.
I would generally say if you're uncomfortable with making the decision tonight, then you shouldn't, if you need time to assess.
Aren't we meeting tomorrow with the commission?
Who?
Aren't we meeting tomorrow with the police commission?
Not that I'm aware of.
No? Okay. I had it on my schedule, so I obviously was wrong.
I did reach out to the salesperson to see if they could hold it in our name for another couple of weeks, and I haven't heard back from them.
Maybe can we table it to get through some other things?
Come back to it, can we do that?
Would you like Chief Helquist to come in? He has offered.
Can he get a hold of that salesperson maybe? And, I mean, that would be if we could wait 2 weeks to try and get some better numbers and have kind of a work session on our schedule.
So just to recap, maybe to help out a little bit, so we've approved the plow truck, we approved the sign truck, you approved the fire truck purchase. The only thing that's changed since your decisions on that is Leslie's report showing you, if you add the other things, this is where you'll be at. So, if you do, Leslie's report was just to show you the numbers. It's not saying you have to do it, it's not a recommendation, it's just to lay so you have that information, but now you can make decisions going forward about a loader, grader, and a squad car.
And that's kind of the way I was looking at it, was those 3 items discussed during our working session. You know, streets getting the plow and the sign still. I think Chief is already getting a squad car this year. Okay.
You've ordered it, it just hasn't arrived.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the fire would be this. I mean, we are trying to take care of every department citywide. And I get your concern 100%. I mean,
And I'm
it's-
okay at that level, I'm just not okay at
the 1/4.
no.
Yeah, and no one was asking that of you. She was just laying out that information as a report for you to look at. I would say if you were to go back to the department heads and ask them to prioritize, this is their priority. They wouldn't be asking for a sign truck if they didn't need it. You know, they wouldn't be asking for it. The dump truck and the sign truck are their priority over grader and loader. That's why they were further down on the timeline. And in fact, I don't think the loader and the grader were even on the timeline for another 2 to 3 years.
I think it's next year and the year after,
25 or 26. right?
25, 26.
Yeah.
And this payment, because the delay would come, did you say 25?
I bet you.
Fire truck, yeah.
Well, we do have a motion and a second on the floor. I don't know if hearing her numbers had your mind changed or what, but I think no matter what comes out of the vote here, council, I'm hearing, would like to have a work session with department heads maybe and finance director Brunfeld and try and get a long-term plan scheduled out on our equipment needs. You know, I met with Sergeant Revel earlier today, and he was talking about how their long rifles are outdated and their tasers are outdated, and they got a laundry list of equipment needs too. So I mean, we're making improvements, but there's still a lot of work to be done. So it's I don't know. I guess my opinion on the motion and second is I was good with it in January. I don't like going backwards on anything, and I get Councilor DeWall's concern, but I think we can fix a lot of those concerns by putting together a long-range plan for the future.
For the remaining
Yep.
big ticket items.
Yep.
And putting in some stagger,
Yep.
which which will just help future councils down the road.
Exactly. I don't like that because everything's gonna be coming up at the same time again, and that just creates a whirlwind of a
And
mess.
some, excuse me, but some of this equipment has a longer life than others.
Right.
I mean, you buy a new grader, you're probably not looking at another one for another 30 years.
And really, by combining them all, that was just so that we could bond for 1.5 million.
Trying to get a cheaper interest rate,
Correct.
today's dollar instead of
Yeah.
5 years from now.
And if we didn't do the front end loader and the grader, would we have to bond?
We
for
may
them-
not have to.
For them other ones?
Maybe, maybe not. All depends, but probably not. But that's why I would like to have that work session, just so we can kind of get a idea of where we're sitting, where we're heading.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Benson?
the second would withdraw that motion, I would withdraw mine. As opposed to bringing it to a vote and perhaps have that as an onus.
I think we bring it to a vote.
I think we need to.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate it, Counselor, but I think we should bring it to a vote.
I feel more comfortable now
Yeah.
than I did,
Yeah.
with everyone kind of understanding what we're up against.
And like I said, I don't know where council stands. Maybe you're getting a different feeling then. But I think a vote would be warranted on it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Did we all vote?
I was in limbo there, but,
We'll do a roll call vote.
no, it's okay. It's okay.
We'll do a roll call. Yeah, we'll do a roll call vote. Counselor Benson.
yes.
Counselor Reuter.
Yes.
Counselor Johnson.
Yes.
Counselor DeWall.
Yes.
Mayor Ward, yes. Motion passes. That will bring us to 5C under unfinished business, St. Luke's Arena parking improvement / accommodations. Counselor DeWall.
Just looking, I know we got shortened that day at the meeting, but I would like to see some kind of update on that. Their budgets are coming up here, so they're gonna have to have their budget set here in the next, if they don't already, they will here in the next few weeks. And I'd like to know what their game plan is for resolution by next fall.
Okay, I did see, looking at their board meeting minutes, it just said mentioned that Mr. Jugnan brought it up to the board, their last meeting, but it didn't say anything in the meeting minutes about it, and it's, yeah, I would like to,
Has it been a month?
oh, I would say so.
Yeah, I don't think it's inappropriate to ask for where you at.
So I do have an update as well. I've been working with Superintendent Juntanen and Finance Director Anderson on it. And they do have an overreaching and outstanding stormwater problem that they need to address with the city. And so they felt that they can't move forward, and they shouldn't really move forward with creating new parking spaces until they get their stormwater under control. And so right now, they are working with their engineer. It is on them to work with their engineer on their stormwater plan to know what their capacity for creating more parking spaces will be, because even if they create a gravel parking space, that's an impervious service, and they have to have a stormwater plan. So the last, our city engineers and myself, our correspondence with them was last week in getting them, again, the latest plans that they had given to us, so that they can go back to their engineer and have the stormwater plan re-engineered.
Is it okay if I talk?
Yeah. Counselor Johnson.
What I don't understand though is, for 7 years now, the ponds haven't been taken care of. To me, the parking is more important than the ponds, because somebody's gonna get hit, something's gonna happen, and we're gonna be up a creek.
I think it has something to do, Counselor Johnson, with our MS4 licensing. we were lax with the school. We were actually on a good track to resolve those issues, and actually the school district did put in a curb cut, and they cut in an opening. We ran into COVID, and it just kind of stalemated, and then we were going through superintendent changes. I just, at the end of the day, you gotta ask for a permit. Even the city has to ask for a permit. At the end of the day, in order for us to get a permit for ourselves, we still have to deal with the MS4. So I understand, you know, the only way around that would be, I'd like to see them utilize some property across the way. They may not own it, the city may own it, but I think it's a much cheaper deal because we've already got ponds set up down below that don't even hardly have any water in them because they're not getting used as heavily. And that's why I was kind of knee-jerk reaction of, hey, come up with a plan. You know, I didn't say come up with a timeline when you're going to get it done. Come up with a plan, a realistic plan. And that's what I want to hear. What's your plan of attack? You're going to get this done at this time, and then 3 months later we're going to do this. I haven't seen any of that. And that's what I'm trying to watch closely and monitor. And nobody likes doing stuff on land they don't own, but I still think it's cheaper going would be to the west. And obviously they know our future plans with that property. That could be a potential parking lot in the future anyway. And like I said, I know there is some ponds which would be down below between, we'll call it the salt sand shed area and that hill that are just not, I don't see much water in them. But I also know that it just seems like for the 8 years I've been on council, we always ask the questions the wrong time. It's, well, we already got our budget set. We don't have any money planned. That's why I was trying to tackle this thing before they set their budget so that we don't wait another year and then we forget about it.
Any other discussion?
I'm with him.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
get tired of watching out there, and then, you know, the city property there, if they were to, even if we let them, you clean it off and put some plastic, it wouldn't have to be blacktop right away. Just an area like, you can park up at the fairgrounds even, you know, just to take up that excess when you need it would be a big help, I think. But I agree with Troy, I think that school needs to give us some kind of plan or a timeline because, you know, we've been more than
Patient.
patient with them and, you know, the last couple of years have shown that it's really gonna be a problem here with the popularity there.
Yep, I agree. So if we could, work with the school a little closer and just try and, I mean, we can schedule another meeting with them and let them know what council's trying to look for here. We don't need hard dates on when things are gonna be completed, but what are they gonna do and when? Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on. That'll bring us to 6A under new business, attorney RFP recommendations. There was a resolution passed out prior to the meeting, resolution 30-24. You saw the recommendation from Administrator Rich and some of the city staff. Administrator Rich, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I was, took the approach, as I said, of getting some comments, questions, concerns from city staff that I identified might have a working relationship with a city attorney, and to see it from their point of view, what they could offer their department and what their department needs are. So based off of that, I individualized meeting, I sat down with each of the firms and had a custom discussion with them about their firm and the questions that the staff did. Staff did a great job of giving me some direction with that, and from that they also scored the Freiberger firm highest on the rubric that was provided. So my recommendation is to appoint the Freiberger firm.
Thank you. You heard the recommendation from Administrator Rich. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 30-24?
So moved.
Counselor Reuter made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Benson?
so we're approving it this 6th day of November?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did write this resolution right before the council
Right.
meeting.
And I haven't had a chance to read it in depth, so
Please make that correction in your motion to approve.
6th of May 2024.
We'll make sure Mayor signs the one with the correct date.
Good catch, Jake.
Any further discussion? Counselor?
I could say that, we as a city council has had relationships with all three of the firms in one form or fashion. And I know in my business, I've had relations with all three firms. All worthy, well-qualified, but I think the resolution in front of us stands out. Tough decision, especially under the circumstances, so.
Nope, I agree, and I support the recommendation as well. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Brings us to 6B, Resolution 23-24, Bike Night Festival. So in your packet is a consideration of approving Resolution 23-4, declaring community festival/event and authorizing consumption of alcoholic beverages in public places. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 23-24? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion? I'd like to add that this is for the 2024 Powerhouse Bike Nights. Any other discussion?
It appears that part of the bike night consumption area encroaches on the Moose, or is that city?
I didn't see the map of that, I don't have one with me. Usually it's just Fifth Street.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's,
Yeah, you want
Yeah.
to come grab it?
this is not the correct map.
He's taken, yeah, I don't
If you,
think
because it's
that's right.
basically all of the his paved parking lot, and then Fifth Street, not down in here.
Okay.
Yeah. It's usually like right here,
Yep,
and then barricaded here and here.
correct.
So I can understand why Counselor
Yes.
Benson is raising the concern, because it,
Only the tarred area going back on
Okay.
Fifth Street.
I mean, if the Moose was fine with it, but I know Thursdays is a big night for them.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Brings us to 6C, Resolution 24-24, June Car Show Festival. Again, in your packet is Resolution 24-24, considering approval for a resolution declaring community festival/event and authorizing consumption of alcoholic beverages in public places. Is there a second? Or is there a motion? I'm sorry.
I'll make that motion.
Counselor Reuter made the motion. Is there a second? I'll second that. Any further discussion?
once again, this map is a little not correct. And that's not the Hoghead car show, this is just the Wednesday night.
Yes.
They usually fill up his parking lot, they might put a few cars on Fifth Street. Some people come in later and they'll just park in the city-owned parking lot as anyone else would, but
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Brings us to 6D, Resolution 25-24, new hire recommendation, roaring. So in your packet is a recommendation to consider Resolution 25-24 approving the hiring of a full-time police officer, Mr. Corey Roaring. Is there a motion to approve resolution 25-24?
So moved.
Counselor Reuter made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Got it.
Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor Benson.
Thank you very much. Under, be it resolved number 2, the starting wage appears to be $35.46. But I think that might have been for the other candidate. And there's, in the resolution, it had mentioned, for Mr. Roaring, how do you pronounce his name? Roaring. It talks about step 5 at 3397, but
Yeah.
in the resolution, it's
It does.
Yeah, you got
3546.
Step 6 on the resolution, so we can make that correction. Thank you, Counselor Benson.
Is that right? The 3397? Okay.
Yeah, that's,
Just to prove I actually do read them.
3397, yeah. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose, motion passes.
Not that I'm opposed giving them more money.
That'll bring us to 6E, Resolution 26-24, New Hire Recommendation, HOPS. Again, in your packet is Resolution 26-24 to consider approving the hiring of a full-time police officer, Mr. Joel Hops. Looks like this would be salary step 6, $35.46 an hour. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 26-24?
So moved.
Counselor Johnson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Reuter. Any further discussion?
Yes,
Counselor Dwell.
since I've already been Debbie Downer, I know our finance director said that we're gonna do this within budget, but we're not doing it within our budget. As per the 2025 is increased, which we haven't even set yet. Two, and I'm not against hiring officers. I want to make that very loud and clear. But what I am against, I just spent 20 minutes discussing, putting ourselves in debt. And I know things are coming up. Like we said in contract negotiations that we're going to look at, for those officers that have been with us, longevity pay.
Longevity.
Now I'm getting an email on a meeting for wage study. We need a new squad car. We want take-home squad cars, because that helps us recruit. We approved the 8th officer with the assumption that our SRO was gonna take off. That didn't. We were at a .3, 12 hours a week is what we get paid for. So where's the .7 time being spent, and do we need 1.7 above 7? You know, I'm torn, because I do believe boots on the streets help, but I also believe we have to manage a budget, and there is no way impossible we can come in at budget. We're gonna have to increase it, because your workers' comp goes up. You know, I've heard, well, if we have more officers, overtime disappears. No, it doesn't disappear. Overtime is there to stay. We could have 12 officers. There's gonna be overtime. There's just no way around it, because things happen. We don't know when they're gonna happen. So I'm just concerned that with all the asks coming up, how are we gonna afford all this? So I raised the question, what is more important to the department? Having 8 officers, or looking at longevity pay, or doing a pay study? What's more important? You know, and I don't know if these were any particular order of, you know, I'm kind of astonished it didn't get brought up after the first one. And I purposely stayed quiet because I don't want to be the vocal one all the time, but I gotta speak my mind, that's why people elect me. So, I'd like to know from the department, I can tell you this right now, chief. We can't afford to do a wage study and promise wage increases to market competitive. We can't guarantee take-home squad cars to everyone, which I was told her whenever we met that that would be a nice incentive, you know, to recruit people. And we can't look at longevity and have it, we can't have it all. And if anyone thinks we can, they don't look at the numbers, so I'm looking at them. We just can't. So, and I just feel like sometimes we're coming into the back seat, you know, and that's where I get frustrated with the structure of our system. Because we have a Police Civil Service Commission that has no responsibility to a budget whatsoever. And then you have us that we are responsible and have to be fiduciarily responsible for money being spent. And, you know, I'm getting some heat from citizens on just the real estate taxes of what they went up and knowing that they're gonna come through again in 2025. You know, I'm not against it. I'm just disappointed that we didn't push it harder with the school. There again, we give them, and I know we're giving them more than 12 hours a week, which is fine. I don't put price tag on young people and their safety, but evidently the school does. And it's 12 hours a week. I want that to be public, so people hear it. But I also believe that it's not the responsibility of our taxpayers to keep subsidizing everything. And it just seems like it's always, well, we'll just have a steeper levy. We'll do this, we'll do that. And I just think it has to end. And I'm just concerned because we prove 8 officers and there is a meeting scheduled for some kind of pay study deal. We've already promised and committed as a council that we would look at longevity, not that we'd necessarily approve it, but we'd look at something and try to have something by 2025. I think we're making a lot of promises that we just simply can't afford as a city. I wish it could be a ballot question and have the voters vote on it, because I think it would be eye-opening. And I feel bad because we have 2, I'm not gonna lie, I am concerned a little bit about a 25 or 26 year vet.
23 and a half, yeah.
You know, and I know it can help us and it can hurt us. We've been on both sides of that deal, which I think we're still paying for. Unless we got out of that, but that's another expense that we pay for. So, just speaking what's on my mind, trying to be articulate as I can. I just, if I come back and I say, okay, what's most important? Boots on the roads or longevity and wages?
I met with Chief Gaddis and Sergeant Rebel earlier today, and I posed that same question to him, Counselor. Both of their answers, and I don't mean to speak for you if I screw up your words, but both of their answers were boots on the ground, and the reason being, from Sergeant Rebel anyway, was he feels his guys are getting burnt out, and this would help give them that mental break that they should be able to take in this line of work, right? He also said that by cutting the incentive, the retention efforts, just cold will make some people mad as well, but he felt the majority of his guys, and he hadn't spoken to him, he was just speaking out of turn, but he assumed that most would be happier with that 8th officer than the other stuff. And he even said himself, you know, there's, besides wages, there's other incentives that we could look at that aren't so costly to the city. That's when the long rifles and the tasers and that kind of stuff came up, which that is costly, right? But the, my point, I guess, is both the chief and sergeant said the 8th would be better than the other alternative. And not to say we can't look at that down the road, you know? I agree with you 100% by doing both. We just had a 30-minute conversation to start the meeting on our future budget, so, I mean, and Chief Gatus brought up some good things with a 23-and-a-half-year vet. You know, he can hit the ground running. He knows, he's been in the position. He's been I believe a sergeant with the department he's coming from. So he's well-versed in the career. But again, there are concerns, and you're absolutely right. We approved the 8th a year and a half ago because we thought the SRO was going, and I still would like to see that happen. Our retention efforts may be working already because we're getting good candidates applying. I mean, how many do we have, 4 or 5? How many applicants did we have?
I think three
Three?
interview, 3 or 4 interview.
Four?
I believe. So
Yep.
3 with experience and 1 that didn't.
So we're
But
getting,
I mean, that says a lot too.
that's what I'm saying, that we're obviously doing something right up here because we're getting good qualified applicants to apply for our open positions, so.
Well, here's the deal, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to be in a position 2 years from now or a year from now that we are forced to lay somebody off. Because I also think that is a recruiting plus for a city. If I had to ask you, Chief, when's the last time laying off a police officer was discussed, do you know?
Right when we moved 2,000,
I know, because I got the answer, but
I know who it was, but it's just that it was wrong, right when we moved into this building.
but since then, we have, in 24 years, we have never, and I think that if I'm an employee looking at a job, that's on my radar of, you know, granted, they could get a job anywhere if they wanted in that industry, but I just want the cat to be out of the bag that I don't know how we can afford to do everything. And I want to make sure that we at least do what we committed to, which was squad cars, looking at longevity, and, you know, some policy changes that don't really affect us monetarily, but I know one was a tattoo policy, maybe it was facial hair or something, I can't remember. And I don't want the crew to be upset, you know, and that's why I wanted to hear from somebody if boots on the road is the most important, I'm okay with that. If that's what they
Well,
want.
like I say, like I say, that you look at it with things that happened over the weekend and the hours that the officers have put in. I think I shared that there's 28 overtime shifts that we have to fill. Some of those are events, but not many. I'm just worried about the burnout rate. And like I say, me personally, I'd rather see officers.
Yeah, so to that,
That we can schedule and give, Mr. Mayor, you work for us and stuff like that, you would have some time off.
And-
Well, you have some time off, it's just so they can refresh. That is important to me, that there's officers there that can sit there and plug holes in so these guys get vacation time and get a rest.
So that leads me to another question. Do you have a game plan, I'm assuming? You must. We've never had 8 officers in this town.
Well, for like 3 hours, it seems like we did.
No, I don't think we ever had 8. We had 7.
Well,
And then we went down to 6.
And that's the thing, to your point, it seems like we're always short.
So, and I know we're never gonna get rid of the overtime. I lost that. I mean, that's, you don't know when stuff's gonna happen on a weekend and you gotta call people in.
But it should cut down on the overtime.
It
correct?
won't.
well,
Cause when somebody asks for a vacation, somebody's gotta fill that shift.
or somebody calls it and say, we'll always have
Yes and
overtime.
no. I mean,
But-
it's gonna be a little bit better, but to Councilor Deal says that we can't control what happened over the weekend,
Yeah.
you know.
So Chief Gator shared, this, I think it was the last 12 months, the 28 shifts you told me about.
No, that's just what's posted right now.
Oh, posted right now, they got 28 overtime shifts posted. And that does not include Hoghead, the fair, or any speedway events. So then I reached out to Finance Director Brunfeld on how many hours of overtime they've had in the last 12 months. And so far in the last 12 months, it's been 863.25 hours, which is about almost $46,000. Now, like Councilor DeWall and Chief Gates said, we'll always have overtime. We'll never cut that. We could cut it down, but there's always going to be something there. But that's just the facts on where we're at right now.
Mayor, can I note though too, some of that overtime is reimbursed from those special
Yes,
events?
and she did say
It's
that. We
not-
got
it's
some,
not all, yeah.
got some money from TZD and some other special events. And that was gonna be my next point to Councilor DeWall, wishing it to be a ballot question. It may not be a ballot question, but the surveys that Councilor Benson has asked for, it'd be a good question on the survey. Speaking with Sergeant Riedel and Chief Gates earlier today, you know, they kind of brought up the fact that if they don't have enough people to do the work, right now, what happened last weekend, is a big investigative nightmare with everybody involved with it, right? So sooner or later, if council doesn't want to do this, and I'm not opposed either way, right? But maybe it is a good question to ask our citizens, what kind of police department do they want? Do they want one that's gonna respond to barking dogs and holding up resolutions and that, or do they just want people that are gonna pull cars over and do the police duties and not, you know, so it's a tough question, but with the investigative work, and I know Chief Gates has some ideas, and I won't get into that at the moment, but maybe some other retention ideas that won't cost the city anything, but some good ideas there, so.
Mayor, if I could clarify a couple comments. Number one, I want this to be clear, this isn't about this candidate. This is about the position. You have a very good candidate in front of you. And then second, the task force that Councilor DeWall is referring to, that's an initiative of the Civil Service Commission, and not all of you were invited to that. It was an invitation to the two members of the negotiation committee. Leslie, Finance Director Brunfeld, studied on how much hiring a firm would be to do a wage study. And she studied some wage studies that have been done by firms, and she felt she could do that study in-house. But she suggested a task force come together from the negotiating committee, the Civil Service Committee, the officers, to define the parameters of what comparable departments she should be looking at. What is important, what does Proctor have and need that another department has and needs, and then compare those two. So whether it's size, whether it's in proximity to another urban area, is it rural, is it population size, is it school district size, what does that mean? And then comparing those officers and wages and benefits, not just the hour per hour. Trying to find some apples to apples. This is a study that the council could consider and as a baseline for any negotiations. So it does not, by doing the study, it does not commit you to those findings. It offers some information.
And I guess I just would like it to be made clear too that, you know, whether council approves an 8th officer, doesn't approve an 8th officer, doesn't guarantee that a wage study will take place and be beneficial to the PD or anyone else involved, or, I mean, these are all things we're just looking at, whether we go with an 8th or we don't. I don't want people to think when we come out of this meeting that because we hired the 8th, everything is off the books, or because we didn't hire an 8th officer, now they're guaranteed a wage study increase, right? I mean, it has no bearing on the other one. Whatever's decided tonight, we will continue looking at, but it's not 100% thing, if that makes sense, yeah.
To your point of like deciding what we do, things have obviously changed in my 31 years doing this. Like having a wage study, looking at everything and having a group of Councilor DeWall, I think Mr. Johnson on it, and police commission members, but that'd be a good time to sit there too. It is not the wage study. What do you want, what do you see us doing? Do we see the future of our department? Do we keep on, staffing all these events that we're asked to sit there and do, or don't we? You know, sit down and talk about the future capital improvement plan that you're talking about with the graders and front end loaders and stuff like that, because, yeah, we would like to be a part of that discussion, and I think this group, I just don't think it's I think it's talking about the future of the police department, the future of the city. How can we move forward and make this work? That's what I'd like to add with that.
Yep.
If I may, I personally think that it should be somebody other than on the negotiating committee, on that committee.
I got it.
I think it should be somebody other than the negotiating committee on that committee. I think I look at levels of seniority. That's what I do every day. Everyone has to report to somebody. I report to council. If I'm gonna spend all this time and we're gonna spend staff time, then it either has to be administrator bringing it to council, and I think council needs to bless it. Yes, that's a direction I think we need to go. I don't wanna spend hours and hours and hours on something unless council is on. You got two counselors, but you don't have the council. But I think to be more outside of the box, so to speak, I would encourage Counselor Benson, Counselor Reuter to sit on that. They might bring different things to it that I just not wired to.
Correct, yeah.
I don't think I'm the best person to have on that committee. And I'm just trying to be unbiased and fair, because I appreciate a third party, somebody that doesn't, when it comes down to it, I'm more of a proportion in spending some money on a third party to do it, because you get an outside perspective instead of an in-house perspective. And I also look at it, just quite frankly, if I'm gonna ask for a wage study, I'm kind of saying you're underpaying me. That's why I want the wage study. I think more or less, that's why you ask for a wage study. If everything is good, why would you ask for a wage study? Just because? It's different than pay equity. Pay equity is a little different animal. And I know we're close on that. Which brings another element to the whole thing, because every time you step something up, you gotta keep things in perspective. So that's just my 2 cents.
And that wouldn't be a council decision tonight. If you don't wanna be on that committee, get with Administrator Rich, and maybe you can find somebody else to be on it.
Can I just add one more thing?
Yeah.
The one thing I do like is I like when you guys come and talk to us. Come talk to myself, talk to the officers, sit down and ask us questions, what we do on a day-to-day basis. Because if we don't have that give and take, you don't know what the officers are up to, or what I'm up to, what Sergeant Rebo's up to. I love that when you guys come and talk to us. Okay, so we have that communication back and forth. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
And I'll explain our reasoning behind offering the negotiation committee to set it, because if the wage study does show that there's going to be a change, or could be a change, or they're going to ask for a change, the committee was in on the ground floor of deciding those parameters of what to compare ourselves to. So my thought on that was, if we didn't have the negotiation committee giving their input on size, geographic location, population, location in the state, when that wage study, whatever it finds, comes to you, you've been a part of that decision-making process to have comparable wages or comparable cities. That was the only reason for the suggestion of the negotiation committee.
Mr. Mayor, if we could go
Councilman.
back to hiring an 8th officer. I kind of excited that we have an 8th guy that even wants to be here. In my 20-some years of working for the city, there haven't been any more than, I don't even know if it's been 2 or 3 years, or we've actually even been full strength. We've always been short, and even when we get up to full strength, within a year or so, somebody leaves, and I think the idea that we're not only full strength, but looking at having somebody else there to help out our officers, I think that shows that the city's doing something right. We're actually getting some people come here, and even though we have 8 right now, that doesn't mean that this time next year, we're gonna have 8, you know, it's hard to say, but if history repeats itself, we end up losing people. So I'm in favor of bringing this individual on.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I'll just add that we're not at 8,
Oh,
7.7.
Yeah. He's
Well-
taking the SRO time.
only talk to the .3 guy.
Mr.
Counselor
Mayor.
Benson.
Anyway,
No,
Thank you, Counselor.
And I'm going to advocate for this position as well. I remember when officers used to feel that coming to Proctor was guaranteed overtime, and they wanted it in their contracts. And now more than ever, you know, you have to look at the mental and physical health of officers, because of, as we all know, what's going on out there in the real world. And I agree with Jim that, you know, just because we have this extra position that's filled today, doesn't mean it's going to be that way next year, next month, next week. So I think it's going to be good for the department and good for the city.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. That'll bring us to 6F, Resolution 27-24, approving the hiring of a part-time municipal liquor store clerk. In your packet is a new applicant, Patricia Kane, looking to be employed at the Mountain Spirits Liquor Store on a part-time basis at a rate in accordance with the liquor store clerk's non-affiliated agreement. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 27-24?
So moved.
Counselor Reuter made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Brings us to 6G, Resolution 28-24, Speedway funding. In your pack is requested action considering Resolution 28-24, approving tourism funding to the Proctor Speedway in the amount of $1,500 for the 2024 marketing campaign. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 28-24? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor DeWall. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Brings us to 6H, Resolution 29-24, Updated Emergency Operations Plan. In your packet, you saw the corrections of the City of Proctor Emergency Operation Plan. That was last updated in 2020. Looking for a motion to approve Resolution 29-24.
So move.
Counselor Johnson made the motion. Is there a second? Hearing no second.
Second.
Second by Counselor Reuter. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Counselor DeWall.
Since it seems to be my night, I'll just carry on. The main purpose of this, Chief, just to obviously names change and
Basically, this came to light to us because Puck needed an updated emergency operations plan and just updating, yes, the names and phone numbers and stuff and kind of making it look nicer.
okay, then I would go through it again and update a recent name change.
Yes, because that was in the process of,
We didn't know she was gonna say I do.
yeah.
Well, as long as we're making the changes, let's give her the benefit of the doubt and give her a married name that
She
she
did.
chose to take.
Okay.
And then the only other, I actually read this, hazmat changed for signature.
That changed?
I was just curious why it changed and if the parties that were gonna take that over are comfortable with taking that over versus the party that used to take that over, which was a fire chief.
Okay, we'll look at that.
He's probably the most trained on it, especially with the railroad stuff going in and out. So I just kinda, not that,
And that one, like I say, like, we'll look at that, like, because there was certain things in there that, since COVID, when, Mr. Mayor, we looked at that, a lot of, obviously things changed and formatting was really bad in that last document. So hopefully it wasn't just a typo issue in that one.
What page is that, Counselor?
I'm trying to get
Oh,
to it.
okay.
It's a long document.
While you're looking for that, may I add one correction as well?
You most certainly may.
I just gotta find it myself, but it's right in the beginning. So on page I, the distribution page. Throughout the document, you guys struck deputy clerk out, but it's still listed on that first page, so you may wanna change that to, I think you had finance director instead of deputy clerk now.
Has she?
I can't remember who you put, but I thought it was.
Yeah, I remember reading that. It should be what she's categorized, if that's the person that's gonna be in charge of it.
I think it reverted back to Jess, actually. I think we had an issue with that with our, post-board reimbursement, that she wasn't actually the deputy clerk, had to go to Ms. Rich.
I would 100% agree that it should go back, because we don't have that position. Well, we do, she's just dual role.
Yes.
And that's all I had on it.
Okay.
Did you spend a lot of time on this?
Jess and Shar worked on it a lot, Megan looked at it, and just putting different names. It's just like basically updating the names and stuff like that. And then people would change it, and then they had to get changed back, reverted back to what the changes were, and that took a little bit of time.
And then people got married and all that stuff.
Yes.
And, you know. Well, I just wanna say thank you to everybody that put in a lot of time and effort into this.
And it was, say, they needed a new updated plan for that. That's what came to light. Which is good, get us to update things.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Counselor Benson.
Thank you. My observations would be that the 218 prefix to the telephone numbers are missing. And I know sometimes you can't get through unless you use all the numbers. The public information officer segment, I think, can be improved on. I don't have any sort of instant updates for that, but we could talk and evolve that. Also, when you look at social media contacts, Facebook is listed, even though there's a couple of hundred different social media items out there. I always cringe at that, but I know that's what people look at. Also, Information Highway use all the available opportunities you have, including Northland Alert. A number of cities have it: St. Louis County, Duluth, Hermantown, Floodwood, Virginia, Hibbing. The last time we discussed it, I believe, was maybe 2017, and I think that Councilor DeWall and I were the only ones in favor of proceeding with that as a opportunity notification system.
So, bringing that up, the emergency management director and I talked about that from the county, because they gave that to us because they're city. It's one
Yeah.
thing that we're small, that we could get that benefit for nothing.
Yeah.
For Hermantown had to pay, but we tried to implement it back then, and we couldn't get people to use it.
Well,
But now,
per-
like you say, but now it was opening up more, not for just city employees to push out information to people that are working on a water break or whatever. Now it was opening up to, more citizens and stuff that sign up for it. So yes, that was just talked about recently.
For someone who's on the computer a lot, dealing with government websites, social media sites, it gets buried way too quickly. And government websites, hard to navigate a lot of times. But that's just my observation.
Phone, yeah. Like yours. Starting on page 17, I gotta flow back up. But it used to be fire protection, the whole fire protection, Proctor Fire, EMS, communication capabilities,
Annex G.
yeah. And that changed from our fire chief to the emergency management director. And I'm wondering why we're using emergency management director. Do we have one?
That's me.
It's our police chief? So what if you're gone?
That's what they just, when I got appointed, it was like, going back in history, Baptiste was the emergency management director. Then it was Walt Wolbig, and then it just followed to me.
Because I would assume we're gonna use the instant command system. So whoever is highest to the scene first is gonna take charge or gonna be command.
Well,
I just thought, I was reading through, maybe it was an old document, but I thought, the one I read anyway, the one I had a copy of, and I didn't bring it with, I wish I would've. So I was trying to compare, cause this is such a huge document, there's so many things that unintentionally can happen. But I thought, just as we don't use deputy clerk, and I'm just trying to figure out But I think for fire-related things, and I question the hazardous waste kind of things, I think that,
And that I'll have to look at that concept.
yeah, I think it would be more appropriate to follow fire, in this sequence type thing. Because then what happens if you're on vacation, we have something, does that then go to the sergeant? Who would become the emergency management director? Because you're out of the state.
Yeah, it goes downhill. But like I say, if it's a fire-related issue, it's gonna be Chief Helquist dealing with that type of stuff.
So I just want to make sure that we're careful with that. Did he go through this at all? Or the other important would be probably our street foreman for certain things. Did he go through it?
so at this point, only names and phone numbers were changed in formatting. And I don't know the discrepancy in.
None of the structure has,
The
it's just
structure
more,
hasn't changed.
like, that's the first I heard about the.
There's a
hazard.
couple structure things that changed in here, not just names.
But that was the first about the hazmat thing, so that's what I'll have to look at. I wrote that down to look at.
I just,
And
if
I don't know how that down.
everyone is cool with it, that is a key component of this, which from the city, and I know there's others, there's school district and this and that, but it stems from the city. And as long as our street foreman who would be potentially involved heavy, our fire chief who would be involved heavily, and obviously our police chief who's ultimately involved the heaviest. I just wanna make sure, if we're taking the time to make these adjustments, let's make some adjustments. And I just saw those two,
So you had the hazmat and,
yeah,
yeah, okay.
Annex G and Annex L, I believe hazmat is.
I wanna say 17 and 28.
17 and 28.
And I, just as the rest, this is I'm glad you're doing it, I wouldn't wanna be the one doing it. This is a big document, and it's very important. So thank you for everyone that has taken the time to make the adjustments on it.
Yes, ma'am?
Counselor Benson.
I do have one more observation, Chief, and that is on the emergency notification list. A lot of phone numbers, no emails. And if there's an emergency, I think it would be more, it would be quicker if you had that email list. And I could provide that to you,
Okay.
because I had it.
Okay.
Also, one other question. In the past, there used to be like an emergency management course. Could have been online.
That was weeks that you went to, you know, traveling back. Brad Taves actually went to it, and it was weeks on end of going to it. I know a couple other people that went to it, you know, but yeah, the training is long.
I think also that was referring to the NIMS National.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we all had to,
Yeah, NIMS, but if you're, like, you know, there's like a county, like, the county emergency management directors go to week-long end emergency management director training. So from Brad Tace was the last one that went to that type of certification.
Because I know I went through it years ago.
That was NIMS.
That was probably NIMS.
that was NIMS.
NIMS?
Yeah.
Cause I know I went through it, you went through
Yeah.
it,
And right after 2000, we had to go the next step higher.
yeah, I know that, we were a little, we got it up to par,
Yeah,
that I knew of back then.
but they added more classes for us to take.
So is that still available? Just,
Yes, because when we do, to take your ERMR certification, you have to take, what is it, 200, 300, 400 or whatever? I'm not, don't take me verbatim on that, but when you do your, you know, the first responder training or EMR, they call it now, because they change it, you have to take that training.
Especially the chiefs. Chief of fire, chief of police, they don't have a choice, cause I say that's when I had to take mine, was when I was chief.
Well, you were deputy chief, I'm sure you had to take that, yeah.
I'm not advocating going through it again.
No, yeah.
It was nice the first time.
Mhm. But over the years, they change things. They say you have to have this, and sometimes they say you don't have to have it.
If you could remind me, I'll forward you my list of contacts,
Okay.
email contacts.
Any other discussion? We do have a motion and a second on the floor. Do we want to rescind that with the recommended changes?
Personally, I'd like to give them an opportunity to just keep plugging at it. In case there's something else that we missed. It's a huge document, and it's like the recodification, you don't do that in a setting.
And there's no requirement to approve it tonight.
No.
Can I just ask for clarification on a list of what you want changed? As we have been working on this for 2 months. So at this point, we're looking for your direction and what, tonight you've had several comments. I don't know whether a comment is a suggestion or you'd like it in there, or where you want us to go from here.
Well, I think the hazmat and the Annex L and Annex, what was it, G? To take a look at those, if there were changes to it. Counselor Benson had some recommendations for emails, I
And
think,
the 218.
and the 218, and Counselor DeWall had a recommendation to have the street foreman and fire chief look at it as well.
And recent name change updated,
Oh, and yeah, Megan's name change.
along with the, well, that was already done. Deputies taken out and,
Yeah, on the
but it
index
affected
page, it is
our
still listed.
city administrator.
My question I have, is this gonna hurt Puck, that they, yes, yeah. suggestion to approve it with these changes when you look at it.
And relook
Kinda like
at
we
it.
do with public safety.
I sit on Paul Command and never even knew about it, so if they've been working on it for 2 months, how am I not aware of it when I sit on the commission? But
It wasn't a request to the commission, it was a request to the staff from a business owner who needs to update it, their emergency management. It's from a local bank who needs an updated version for their emergency management. And then we've seen that the changes that need to be made, and in code, it says it should be updated annually and reviewed and approved annually. So we're a little bit behind on that.
I guess I don't wanna see a business get hurt by it. So I'm okay with those changes being made to approve it, and then
Revisit it.
let's revisit it. Maybe, we always tend to lose sight of it. It seems like it's a 10 or 20-year cycle.
But yeah, I have notes down to street department, to Chief Hillquist and stuff to.
Cause something might have changed in their area. I just always wanna include those that it affects the most.
Well, then we'll vote on the motion and second on the floor, because that is to adopt these changes, and then if we can revisit it here again in the future. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Brings us to members' concerns. Counselor Reuter.
I have
Thank you,
nothing.
Chief, I'm sorry.
I have nothing.
Thank you. Counselor Dwell?
Administrator Jess, are we gonna talk about this next meeting?
It's been forwarded to our insurance company, so I'm waiting for advisement on them, with them.
On what to advise the council? Okay, I'll hold off until next meeting. That's all my members' concerns.
Thank you. Counselor Johnson?
The first city park worker started today, and the other one is starting later on in the week. And, construction guys are working on Second Street today, so it's kinda nice to see.
Thank you. Counselor Benson?
During the last legislative biennial that we're in, 10,000 bills have been introduced. And happy to report that so far Proctor's I-35 extension is still in the mix with 2 weeks to go. So that's encouraging, I
It's
think.
good news, yeah, absolutely. Is that everything?
That's it.
Thank you, Counselor. I just got a few things. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there on Sunday, May 12th. Peace Officer Memorial Day will be on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. And to Counselor Johnson's report on work being done on Second Street, is that still gonna be closed down? I saw it was opened up now this afternoon, so,
Yeah, the closures are gonna be intermittent, so then they're gonna happen on an hourly, if not minute-by-minute basis as they're working down the street.
thank you. That's all I have. Chief Gatus, did you have anything more?
More of a concern. I can't, even right there, I can't hear you guys,
Really?
because that fan is getting louder and louder and louder.
Okay.
So, that's if I come up here and if I can't hear you, that's all I got,
All right.
because I don't know what's going on.
I can hear it up here today, so. All right, thank you. Administrator Rich?
Nothing.
Nothing? I would like to add one more to mine. Congratulations to Megan on her wedding, so. All right,
About time.
that being said, we'll look for a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $171,233.82.
So moved.
Counselor Reuter made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Counselor DeWall made a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Oppose? Motion passes. Thank you.